Hello, my late night listeners, and welcome to WDAD, where we play all of the greatest conspiracy hits. And tonight we have a special cover of a very, very important song. I love it. You love it. It's Hillary Eats the Babies. Welcome. That was a little disconcerting. When the first, could I have come up with a better song title than Hillary Eats the Babies? I don't know, but I think that's where we're at right now in this crazy time. It's great to see everybody as, the numbers tick up here a bit. Sure, Substack always goes a little crazy. YouTube, get people getting used to that. Pretty excited about that. Listen, I don't know, Doug and I were talking before this, who's helped me out so much these past few years. And, we did this as a lark, Denver After Dark, the DAD, WDAD, the dad, we did this. And now for some reason, listen, I'm not putting the kind of money other people are behind this, but I think this could go a little bit crazy based on what we discuss. I do wish everybody was sitting here around me. I'm thinking about doing some kind of stage show. I told somebody's like, hey, Denver, you could fill a 1,200 person stadium. I probably could. And, I was thinking about what if I did this on stage and went from beginning in, and I was thinking about a show like from Bigfoot to J6 to assassination attempts, which I could link all of them. And that's why tonight's going to be pretty exciting because I think that actually instead of starting to filter out or smolder, I think the Epstein thing is gaining steam. But I'm going to actually tell you why. I'm going to give you some baseline facts about conspiracy theories. That's a little ironic. It's like saying, I can't wait to tell you everything I know about the scientists who study Bigfoot. But I'm going to give you some facts about conspiracy theories, but I have a story. We're going to start with story time. And you guys, I know everybody loves story time. And again, I'm waiting a little bit as it's starting to get up there. But this story is a little bit more recent. There is some links to the Satanic Panic here and a link to something that happened to me when I was first elected. And I'm going to talk about that and me and my first Freedom Caucus meeting. I know everybody shrieks in horror, and you should, when I tell you this. And then I'm going to link it all to 3 conspiracy theories: Pizzagate, Frazzle Drip, and Wayfair. Does everybody remember these? And then I'm going to start talking about why this Epstein thing will not leave and will gain momentum. So here we go. So here I am, right? I get elected. This is 2019. Probably my first meeting. I only made 3 full meetings of the Freedom Caucus because I realized pretty quickly that I was in the wrong spot. Anyhow, the first meeting centered around, I don't know if everybody remembers Louis Gohmert. I think he was elected in a special election as the dumbest congressman we've ever seen. So anyhow, I'm sitting in the meeting and they're talking about a new bill. And I don't know if you guys know this, in the Freedom Caucus, a certain percentage of the entire caucus has to agree in order for it to go to a vote or be presented on the floor. And I can't remember, I think it was 70 or 80% of the votes. And, me and Ben Klein from Virginia 6th, he was brand new. Morgan Griffith from Virginia was in there too, because everybody in Virginia, if you're Republican, you're supposed to be a member of the Freedom Caucus where you get beat. But what happened to me when I left. So anyhow, we're sitting there and they're like, hey, we have a bill that we want to put forward. And we think we need a bill to stop the one world algorithm from suppressing conservative voices. So now you guys know some of my background, 16 years in the National Security Agency, Air Force Intelligence, off and on doing special projects. I had contracts supporting Special Operations Command, done huge data projects. I've gone after communication systems. I've done vulnerability analysis. I've had a crazy life. And I'm looking at Ben, who just got elected, a freshman. I'm like, that's not a thing. It's probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So everybody's like, yeah, we got to stop that. I'm like, I don't know if they know how this thing called math works or algorithms. And, it's such a ludicrous and ridiculous thing. So they're now getting up in this, like, sort of this religious fervor about it. That obviously there's some globalist or deep state or big tech is suppressing conservative voices, which, as you can see in today's day and age, is just so ludicrous. It's hard to even get your arms around now because it's very difficult not to hear a conservative voice anywhere, anything that you see, because they're insane. A lot of them. So anyhow, make a long story short, because I'm going to go into another congressional story really quick after this, and this is all linked. I look at Ben and I say, Ben, I got to say something. He goes, don't, it's our first meeting. We don't want to, I said, no, I got to say something. So I sort of raised my hand at my first congressional meeting. It's Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs, Randy Weber, right? All the greatest hits, right? And people are like, God, Dan, you know everybody. Yes, sadly. So anyhow, they said, like, Denver, welcome. Hey, thanks for coming. I said, well, I said, I'd just like to talk about your bill about suppressing conservative voices by a bill that should identify and do a study on the algorithm that suppresses voices globally. They're like, yeah, that's what we want to hear, man. I said, yeah, that's not a thing. I said, there is this thing called math, and you have different database structures, different ways of attacking networks. I said, there's just no such thing. It's not a thing. Like it's. So I people looked at me that I actually was the Antichrist, which was foreshadowing of 9 months later when I was called the Antichrist after I officiated a same-sex wedding. So break. So the crypto bill, you guys have heard of the crypto bill, and I had been hearing some rumblings. I still know staffers on both sides. There's still a Riggleman alumni in there, but there's other people that are in there that work all over the building. I know the Congress, I can walk the halls, I have lifetime privileges. I got the pen, I can do what I need to do. Anyhow, I'm hearing these weird rumblings. I'm getting these texts. I'm seeing some stuff online. I'm like, Republicans aren't thinking the crypto bill's satanic, are they? So I get a phone call from somebody. And he's like, Dan, you're not going to believe this, man. You know what happened? You know why it took so long to get on the floor? I said, why? He said, because they said that the crypto bill, it was satanic and it was the mark of the beast. I've warned you guys about delusion-based policymaking. This is what's happening, right? You're having policy, you're having legislation, having so many things done in the name of God based on whatever belief system that they have. It's the 666 coin. I bet you we can make money on that. I think that's actually Trump's coin. That's the baseline. It's probably the one world algorithm, that's manipulating and suppressing all conservative voices. So I said, that can't be true. He goes, no, honestly, we had to stop the forum, right? The actual people from coming in and saying, we're going to stop this bill and we're going to go out and press conference this stuff, right? That this is satanic. I know I know it's hard not to laugh. I know it's hard not to sit here and go, hey, let me reach for my bourbon. Let me get a tumbler or a rocks glass. Let me go ahead and pour a drink. And because there should be horror here, what I'm telling you. If you think about those two stories, this is really what you're looking at with people making decisions on policy for this country and why you see this shaky spiral into oblivion. So now we're talking about the Epstein case, and I want to bring up what's going on with Hillary Clinton and her emails. Hillary Clinton and obviously this Russiagate thing, which is just a rehash of 2020. And by the way, I want to ask everybody here, what happened to Obama? I thought Tulsi Gabbard had Obama dead to rights. What happened there? Yeah, you probably don't want to get confused on what cyber attacks are, right? It's not just penetrating an election machine, a Dominion or a Smartmatic machine. Yeah, that's also stuff like hacking emails, like the DNC and other types of things, and also digital disinformation, which, and I think everybody's forgotten this, and I know Doug's going to like, Denver, what a genius you are. You guys do know the people that were tracking that was the Global Engagement Center, the GEC. So the Global Engagement Center was run by the State Department, and that looked at worldwide, guys, look it up, worldwide disinformation and how to actually combat it and how it manipulates American opinion and what can it do as far as attack vectors on Americans using that type of disinformation and creating violence. Well, the Trump administration got rid of the GEC. It's gone. So anyhow, so now we don't have any American institution with any expertise looking at foreign disinformation at all, just to let everybody know, which is very, very good for people that say, I don't know, want to make money on crypto, want to get people's public opinion all screwed up. And that's where we're going to go with Pizzagate. So everybody's heard about QAnon, obviously, which sort of erupted on the world scene with the first Q drop around October 2017, I believe. But what a lot of people seem to want to forget about is Pizzagate from Comet Ping Pong Pizza and the bizarre conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton was running a child trafficking ring and pedophilia ring out of the basements and caverns underneath of Comet Ping Pong Pizza in Washington, D.C. That started, oh gosh, March 2016. When it really bubbled up was November 2016. But pretty interesting, right? That really is the crux, really the baseline, the bread, the meat of the QAnon conspiracy theory, which is this one world pedophilia ring run by the globalists. The Democrats, obviously, in the U.S. were on it as far as the QAnon right was concerned. Of course, this is an evangelical specific type of conspiracy theory. So when you're talking about this, it started from a white supremacist website. That's where Comet Ping Pong started. I know that's a big surprise to everybody. And you can go look at this, by the way. And again, I like to data check and fact check everything. But as you also know, I've had to deal with these conspiracy theories at length. So if you go back and take a look at it, what's interesting is it was sort of frazzling a little bit, not frazzle drip, but it was sort of fizzling out a bit. And suddenly, they had foreign sources start to amplify it. And then the 4chans and 8chans caught on, Twitter caught on. You're like, well, still, Demmer, we know what really got it going. Well, the website, the Donald, or the social media site, the Donald got a hold of it, the Donald for Donald Trump. And that's really when Comet Ping Pong took off and the actual Comet Ping Pong Pizzagate conspiracy theory, which ended with a person actually going in there and trying to blow the locks off storage container so they could go down there and see the kids. That guy gets arrested. He's a nutter who was arrested again, I think, where gun charges had something really bad happen to him just in the last year. Look it up. It's insane because insanity usually doesn't go away. There you go. Josiah, thank you. He was killed in a traffic stop. That's what I was referring to. And as you know, past performance is indicative of future performance, folks. You heard it here. One of the intelligence wisdom of the world right there. So Comet Ping Pong blooms this thing called QAnon. It's interesting, when you're looking at what's happening with Hillary and Obama now on this redux, the greatest hits, going back. I mean, before you know it, there's going to be an investigation on Hillary's child trafficking ring at Comet Ping Pong Pizza because it's as nutty as what you're saying with what Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and Pam Bondi are saying right now. Like, well, Demmer, it couldn't be much worse than that, right? Comet Ping Pong, all the things that were happening there, how it was amplified, foreign sources, going to domestic sources, those domestic sources linked mostly to Donald Trump. And then you have Frazzle Drip. Has anybody heard of this bad boy? Frazzle Drip was big, especially when conspiracy theories came out. Frazzle Drip was where Hillary Clinton again and Huma Abedin were filmed, were on a tape, performing satanic rituals on girls. Frazzle Drip. This was sort of like the step cousin of Comet Ping Pong. And I know some of you probably like, Denver, I never heard of these things. I know Comet Ping Pong's pretty big, but Frazzle Drip, wait till I get to Wayfair. But Frazzle Drip's really interesting because it was like almost like a bridge. It's like a gateway drug to even crazier things. Because people said those tapes existed, and maybe they had some homemade tapes out there with this. And I'm like, this is nuts, right? And it goes all the way back to Louis Gohmert, and it goes all the way back to the One World algorithm. It goes all the way back to Satanic Panic being part of the crypto bill, or satanic ritual. It goes all the way back to Comet Ping Pong. It goes back to this overarching, save our children, hashtag and QAnon. And what scares me about this is all of it is evangelical based, and we'll get to that. So anyhow, Frazzle Drip, pretty brutal, right? And again, just absolutely ludicrous. It's insane, but you had a huge belief system out there. And now I'm going to wow you with statistics. I hope you're ready for this. So in December, So a few months, I think, after Comet Ping Pong thing exploded, there was a poll about who believed it, Democrats and Republicans. Actually, it was Hillary voters and Trump voters. You ready for this? I'm going to blow your socks off right now. 18% of Hillary voters believed Comet Ping Pong Pizza to be real. Pizzagate. not the place. I've eaten there. And by the way, I've eaten at Comet Ping Pong Pizza. It's delicious. Everybody should go, should patronize it. And by the way, you'll find no caverns because there's no basement at Comet Ping Pong where this was supposed to happen. So, goodness, I'm going to go back to Hillary really quick. Hillary has to be demonized. There's no way around it, whether it's through Frazzle Drip, whether it's through Comet Ping Pong, whether it's to Save Our Children and QAnon, whether it's Hillary Clinton, the Clintons are part of this. Listen, I'm going to piss some people off. When Kamala Harris, was coming through Virginia, I was the Republicans for Harris coordinator. I was supposed to do an event with Bill Clinton. I didn't go. I didn't want my picture with him. And, part of it's just me, right? I just not that excited to meet Bill Clinton. But there's also a stink about it, right? There's something pretty awful and fetid. And, when you talk about what Trump's Epstein relationship is, with Epstein, I'm not a real big fan of Clinton's either. So I just wouldn't do it. But Hillary's sort of a different thing. And, people are like, oh, she knew everything. Everybody, it must have been this big thing with Epstein too. I don't know. All I know is that Hillary was a likely target because she was maybe going to win. I mean, that's the same thing you're going to see over and over again. You're going to go in the 26 midterms into 28. All these conspiracy theories are going to rebloom in some other weird form. And as you get in from that frazzle drip, you get into something even crazier, right? Wayfair, but really quick. 18% of Hillary voters believe this was true. That's a lot of crazy Democrats. 18%. Probably the same percentage that believes the 2024 election was stolen. But I'm going to give you another number right now. You ready? 46% of Trump voters believe it. 46. So sometimes I say crazy is not party specific. It's true. But I'm telling you, the GOP has a lot more. Again, evangelical based. I do think if you think you have a direct line to the supernatural, you might be more prone to believe nutty things. That's probably the least scientific thing I've said, but I bet I'm right. I think it's proven statistically. Here's the thing. When you get into this kind of nuttiness, and I can say that there's crazy people on both sides, we all can. If there's 100 crazy people on one side and 10 on the other, there's a crazier side. There is a superlative here. There's the craziest. And I think that's what scares me, is that there seems to be a higher percentage of reality challenged people on the right than the left right now. Independents and center left and center right are scratching their head like, holy shit. I think that's why you're listening to me. Wayfair. Wayfair is pretty interesting. You guys do know, where Wayfair furniture shipped children in packing containers and furniture because they're named their furniture after female names. And when somebody put in numbers, I think it was into a Russian search engine, it came back with pictures of girls, which was a default. Any number you put in there would do that, and they had to fix it. Was it Yantex or something? Maybe it was China or Russia. Look that up too. But it was like, oh my gosh, Wayfair. I remember Hillary being connected to Wayfair too. So now you have this thing, right, where I have all these experiences. I'm seeing what's happening. I know people are voting on it. By August of 2019, I had people coming to my the cabinets were named after missing children. Thank you, Doug. I remember that I was at a campaign event and I had officiated the same-sex wedding, and people started coming having Q on their lapels. Q pens, one had a Q shirt, one had a person with an M16 that said Q's here to protect the children, hashtag save our children all over the place. I didn't know what it was in the middle of 2019, right? I obviously was familiar with Comet Ping Pong, but Q had just gained so much momentum at the end of 2018 into 2019 that was part of the voting, a huge voting block of the Republican Party. So that's why things like Frazzle Drip, Wayfair, Comet Ping Pong, or Pizzagate, QAnon, Save Our Children, The Storm, WWG1, WGA, the stolen election, Biden, Obama killing SEAL Team 6, which Trump's retweeted in 2020. That was actually pushed by season 32 Survivor contestant Anna Great? Anna, something like that. So memories, right? Getting old. So you have all this happening right now. Now I'm going to go back to why why this or Anamoron, why this scares me, why I'm telling these stories. I want you to know that this baseline beliefs that I just told about is everything that feeds what's going on in the Trump administration now with Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, things like that. And that's my biggest fear, is that this won't end. I don't think it's going to end well anyway. And I'm not here to be a doom and gloom person. I'm just not that. I'm not really wired for doom and gloom. I'm sort of optimistic, right? I've always been sort of this. We can make hay out of this, you know. If we, break some eggs, right? We can make a gin drink. I don't know. We could, if you know what I'm saying, guys, right? If life gives you lemons, I don't know, go make some limoncello. So it's all these things that I'm talking about right now, is that I try to have this sort of rosy outlook on life, but I don't have a rosy outlook. I have a realistic outlook, because I'm then cursed with this thing called sort of this facts-based thing. And I don't know why facts are as sexy, right? People get all hooked into things, man. Give me some of that Marxism, man. Give me some fascism. Give me some communism. Give me some socialism. Give me some capitalism, man. We're ism guys. I think we need to start something called factism. Would be pretty cool. Oh, I have one. Realism. Oh, yeah. That's it, isn't it? And I'm hoping to bring realism right to the show. But in order to bring realism, we have to identify what fantasy and delusion, falsehoods are, right? What sensationalism looks like. I mean, that's really what we have to do, because hyperbole wrapped in policy and then executed against people who have no ability to fight it is really the definition of tyranny. So that's where I'm at right now. And to wrap this all up, what I wanted to explain to everybody is the baseline conspiracy theories. Baseline conspiracy theories. There's a one world government. There are globalists. There are child pedophile rings. Everything is satanic. You're looking at Mark of the Beast, right? God is telling us what to do. I am Moses, if you're looking at Mike Johnson, right? The people that are being elected always saying that it's a calling from God. God wanted me to win. All this stuff is absolute lunacy, but it makes complete sense on what they're doing to Hillary right now, and to an extent Obama, on Russiagate, and I'll put that in quotes, because they know it's not true at all. They know those falsehoods are easily digestible by the ignorant masses, and they're looking at 2026, the midterms, and 2028, because they cannot get away from Epstein. That's the issue. They can't get away. They can't get away. Virginia Giuffre, right? When she comes out, 16 years old, she gets trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago by Epstein. It takes Trump 7 years to get Epstein off the list. That it's happened before, that other girls have been stolen. Sounds like Mar-a-Lago is like the fish hatchery for pedophiles, right? I mean, that's really what it sounds like. And it's, if we look at that, you look at Donald Trump, a 16-year-old working in a massage parlor, a 16-year-old working in a massage parlor gets recruited by Jeffrey or Ghislaine, by Galan, and then she is trafficked with pictures of Prince Andrew, where she says that she had sex with Prince Andrew and she was trafficked to other types of individuals. It's a head scratcher, isn't it, when Kash Patel stops the investigation against Prince Andrew, and then you see this fog of conspiracy theories that are actually covering up for a criminal conspiracy. That's how you go at this, folks. If somebody says, "Oh, you're talking about this whole thing with Trump with Epstein is just a conspiracy theory," no, that looks like a criminal conspiracy. That's different than conspiracy theory, and that's a good way that I actually separate my argument tax when I go after people that are nuts. The other thing I ask them, what's possible and what's probable, right? It's possible that Bigfoot surrounds your house and brings squirrel heads to you every day because he loves you, but it's not probable, right? It's possible that aliens come in and watch you. They're voyeurs and they take pictures of you and they roll you over and they knock you out and they probe you and they rub your back with weird alien lotion oil, but it's not probable. And the thing is, that's the issue that we have. But now we're going into the possible probable argument to the impossible to probable arguments. Flat Earth is impossible. That's impossible. Me dunking a basketball right now on a normal 10-foot rim, impossible. Me dunking a donut into coffee, probable. See how I just did this? It's just genius. That's why I like to see the comments. If you have any questions, it's been 25 minutes. I don't like to go over 30 minutes. Usually you have a life, but I hope that this helps. I hope that me bringing up the past as an indicator for the future helps. And I hope it helps your arguments. And there's very smart people that watch us. I see you on social media, the people that I'm hooked to that, have so many followers that do so many things in this vein. But I just have this unique opportunity based on my experience of being behind the door in Congress, being a counterterrorism expert, being a data analytic expert, already having one successful tech company, right now having another AI company that's doing very critical, and I would say demanding research and development work, very intricate and exquisite tech, to be honest. And the fact that I really am an expert at conspiracy theories. I mean, who else went out to talk to Bigfoot believers just to see why they believe what they believe? Listen, I don't think it's Flynn. I looked at, Will Sommer and his QAnon book. I was actually in QAnon documentaries. I don't think it's the moron from the HBO docuseries also. I do think somebody like a Flynn started it, or maybe the 4chan or 8chan coordinators, because they saw an ability to monetize it. And then I think it was more of a group effort with multiple individuals pretending to be Q with the Q drops and things like that, because it was ludicrous. Somebody who's saying it's a DOE clearance at Q, true, but it probably somebody who had been in the military industrial complex at one time. And to be honest, I think it's more likely that it's Flynn than the guy on the HBO. I mean, I just was like, nah. Then you're talking about the boys. Oh gosh, the father and the son, right? The porn addicts. Right, who also, obviously could be Q, right? And so you have all these individuals that are fighting for it, fighting for that provenance. But I think the person that is Q might even be higher up. And I'm going to tell you guys a little story about this rumor about something called the little Pepes. That's what they called him. If you guys remember Pepe, the green frog, he was part of this sort of the alt-right symbology. There's a great documentary on that also. Oh, Ron and Jim Watkins. Those were the idiots that I wanted to talk to you guys about, or talk to you about Q, or people thought they were Q. Ron and Jim Watkins. But the little Pepes, there was this rumor that they had the comm shop run by Dan Scavino was actually in complete contact with QAnon all the time. So, and that's how they were doing a lot of their messaging, and there was a lot of that happening. And we sort of proved that the QAnon messaging was actually utilized by Trump in the first Obamagate subpoena Obama between May and November 2020, and his retweeting that Obama and Biden killed SEAL Team 6. Wow, that was a lot tonight. That was a lot. So as we're going into this week, I got another question. Do you see a civil war in America's future, from Tam? I think we're in it. So, I mean, if you, I know it's a definition of civil war. If you're thinking about going kinetic, I think that is more of a possibility than a probability right now. But it could become a probability based on what happens in the midterms. And I think it could become a probability in certain parts of the country based on gerrymandering or disenfranchising voters. I think that's a real possibility. It's hard not to be angry when you see what's happening in Texas. It's hard not to be angry when you see Democrats or other politicians still wanting to play by the rules, when it looks like we have a full-blown constitutional crisis happening right now, where authoritarianism is sort of part and parcel to what the GOP message is. If you look at the firing of the BLS, coordinator, you look at the firings of anybody who goes against Trump, you're looking at an authoritarian mindset. And even the things of the 2028 run that Trump's going to run in 2028 at 82, 83. I don't even know if he's going to be able to find the podium by that point. It looks like he's in a downward spiral with dementia. But I think if you're talking about an intellectual civil war, or you're talking about a moral civil war, I think we're in it now. I think people are afraid to define a word that I think needs to be used more often, and that's evil. I think evil's a thing. I don't think it is evil as demons or ghosts, right? I don't think of that at all, right? Or your personal trainer. They can be evil, right? I don't think that. But I think evil is what you do to other people. And I think that evil is taking away people's liberty and independence, right, based on delusions and conspiracy theories. And I've always said that I believe stupidity is terminal. I believe that stupidity and ignorance really is the gateway to evil, or what bad things happen. And ignorance, xenophobia, racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, that stuff leads to evil. And that evil does come from ignorance and specific, I would say, mindsets and perceptions of those making decisions that might not be completely sane. Stupidity scares me more than anything. I think we're on the, great question from Josiah. I think we are on the Maxwell pardon countdown after she got shipped to a minimum security prison in Texas, or more of a club fed type of prison. It's unbelievable. The reporting, I think if you look at, I think was it Mueller she wrote, or Empty, there's just great people out there. They reported at first that they lifted a specific type of definitions on sexual criminal definitions on Maxwell in order to get her moved. I find that appalling. You don't treat pedophiles, child rapists, and child traffickers like that, right? You keep them in jail as long as possible and really throw away the key, right? Bread and water time, if that. I have other thoughts on it, but I don't want to put it out in the public sphere. But I do believe that I believe there might be a Maxwell pardon countdown, or they're just going to try to make it go away by ceding to some of her demands. So, guys, it's now been, it's over 30. I don't want to do that. Thank you for watching tonight. And I just want to remember again, just remember when you're dealing with individuals, you can actually ask them the difference between possibilities and probabilities, right? And there's a big difference between criminal conspiracies and conspiracy theories. And I think if you keep that in your head, it gives you your argumentative path against crazy. And you know the baseline of conspiratorial thinking coming from really this bent of good against evil from a supernatural way that is very damaging to the United States of America. And lastly, Hillary, there is no Russiagate. Russia did interfere in the 2016 elections, and a lot of those emails you see were planted because why? The Russians hacked servers. Thank you, everybody. Denver After Dark. Thanks for joining me for story time. I'll see you next Sunday night, but you guys know I'm doing it all during the week. Doug, thanks for the production. I want to say again, good night. Enjoy a nice drink. Hug the people that you love. Make sure you always defend liberty. And you know what? It's time to get confrontational and bring the million-pound shit hammer against everybody that believes in delusions and conspiracy theories. Good night. See you guys later.